It's Friday night draft time, and that means it's mock 10. Yeah, it's mock season. Let's do it right here on Locked On NFL Draft. Let's go.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, yeah, when the music hits, you get hype right here on Locked On NFL Draft. At least I do, because that means the three of us get to start talking about the NFL Draft, and it is a Friday night. That means it's Friday night draft. Now, it might be Friday morning. I don't know when we exactly post this, but I always call it Friday night because it's like Friday Night Lights, and we welcome you in to Locked On NFL Draft. Former AFL defensive back Eric Crocker. You can follow him on Twitter at Eric_Crocker. Ryan Tracy, you can follow him on Twitter at Ryan Tracy NFL, Rogue Analytics, NFL33.com, and I'm John Harris, football analyst, sideline reporter for your Houston Texans. Not your Houston Texans. They're my Houston Texans. They're not yours. I'm sorry. That's just habit. But I'm also owner-operator of footballtakeover.com. So that's just old habit. I got to break that. I'm sorry. It's just I do a bunch of radio for the Texans, and then it just bleeds through. So I apologize. Now, it's Friday, so that does mean we are doing our Friday night draft, and we are doing a mock 10. So we are taking, as it sits right now, the top 10 teams in the league, and we are doing a mock draft starting with, well, looky here, the Houston Texans. So here's what we're going to do. Eric and Ryan are going to get teams, and we're going to go back and forth, and then we'll make the consensus. Do we agree? Is this a good pick? We'll discuss it. If we have to debate it, then I end up breaking all ties. How about that? It's pretty good. I can break ties if we need to do that. Hopefully we'll come to a consensus and we won't have that, but that's what we're going to do. I flipped a coin. Eric Crocker, you lead off. You get the Houston Texans #1 overall pick. Who is it going to be?
On the last episode, Ryan was talking about how we weren't agreeing on everything, and he really liked that, right? For once, we weren't agreeing. Well, I think we're probably going to agree here. You got to go Bryce Young. I mean, this is a disaster right now at the quarterback position. They gave Davis Mills every opportunity. They gave him every opportunity, and it just wasn't going well. And right now, man, you got Dameon Pierce. He's running the rock well. You want to continue to build up what you have at the receiver position, but the quarterback position is just lacking. And you need someone that's coming from Alabama, understands what it means to play in big moments, understands what it means to play winning football, understands what it means to really be able to, go through progressions and make plays and do all these different things that I feel like the Houston Texans are missing, especially after what happened with the other quarterback that used to be in the past, #4. So there's a lot that will be on his shoulders, but I think a guy like Bryce Young, he's made for this moment. He's been groomed for it since he was at Mater Dei in California.
Mater Dei, Alabama. Couldn't have been coached better over those years. Ryan Tracy, do you agree? Bryce Young with the Houston Texans. All right, Ryan agrees. No, I'm kidding. Do you agree?
I concur, Senator. Let's go.
Yeah, I've been wanting Bryce Young. It's going to be an interesting time here in Houston. Just full disclosure, I know there are a lot of people that are going to be pushing in a lot of different ways, and we'll see what happens going forward. But I think Bryce Young has been, for the most part, I would say 60 to 65% of the people right now would say that. There's some of the wild hair saying, no, wait for 2024. You wait for 2024, you win a few games, you don't end up with Caleb Williams. So just get your guy. Bryce Young's your guy. Go get him. Okay, pick #2, the Chicago Bears. Bears have lost 6 in a row. They're 3-10. But, Ryan Tracy, Justin Fields looks good. I think there's a future there. Eric talked about it earlier this week about the Bears doing things with Justin Fields so he gets confidence, so he kind of gets up to speed with NFL defenses. He's kind of getting his game up to speed. Got Darnell Mooney, although Mooney is hurt. Needs some weapons at receiver. I think running backs are fine. Offensive line could use some work. Defense lost Robert Quinn, Roquan Smith. Chicago Bears are sitting at #2. Ryan Tracy, what are you going to do?
Trade. I'm out of there. See you later. Who wants a QB? Come on up. I'll just take a small ransom. It'll be fine.
I would do that too, but I'm forcing you to make a pick.
All right. I think it comes down to two guys. They are on the defensive side of the ball because you don't want to do anything to really it's too early for a wide receiver running back. It's too early for these tackles, in my opinion, so far on the offensive side. So it comes down, do you want an edge in Will Anderson or do you want Jalen Carter? It's it. A or B. Flip a coin. Right now for tonight's exercise, I'm actually a little more intrigued by Carter. What does that do to disrupt, particularly in that division? Whether it's Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers, like you got to feel good about middle disruption. You got to feel good about that with Kirk Cousins. Like I think they might drift that direction. And Ryan Poles has an instant reference to Chris Jones, and I think that is a connection that just might get made.
Eric, do you agree Jalen Carter goes to Chicago and becomes a monster of the Midway?
I think we were starting to agree with where he was going, and then when he said Jalen Carter, I'm like, I think I have to go Will Anderson here, right? And it is between those two guys, Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. There are some other guys that might be intriguing down the line, right? You look at guys like Brian Brisset, you look at Myles Murphy. I think people are going to like those edge rushers. Tyree Wilson, that's somebody to look for that might go in the top 15. But at number 2, I feel like it is a coin flip between Will Anderson and Jalen Carter, and between the two guys, I'm taking the edge rusher.
Okay, so now I got to break the tie, huh? So with the Bears, Dominique Robinson was drafted 5th round last year. They've got Travis Gibson on the outside, who has done some good things. On the inside, they're okay. I think I'm going to have to lean Will Anderson here for the Bears. I think I'm going to go Anderson here for the Bears. That's our consensus. We're going Will Anderson here for the Bears. All right.
Done.
All right. Edge, Will Anderson. All right, Eric, back to you. Now, Seattle, they could use somebody on the interior. Jalen Carter's still there. If I'm Seattle, I might be thinking about trade here, but we won't have trades tonight. Eric, you have Seattle's pick. What will you do?
Trade. No, I can't trade.
I know.
I can't trade. Okay, Will Anderson. Oh, you can't get Will Anderson because he just got drafted. Maybe we should have overruled it the other way, and that would have made this decision a little bit easier. I guess you got to go with Jalen Carter, right? I mean, when you look at these two guys, it's between Will Anderson and Jalen Carter for probably who goes 2 and 3. And in this scenario here, I'm definitely going with Jalen Carter.
Nuh-uh. No way. No, sir. This is a number 3 pick. When's the next time you're going to do that? You think you got it? No. Gino's a nice survival tool here, and he's helped you survive. You go grab CJ Stroud, you look at the future right now, tonight, done deal, over with.
You got me. I'll flip. That was good.
Okay.
That was good. I was taking the safe route. I just talked all this stuff about how I like, on the last episode, how I like to, live life on the edge a little bit. That's living life on the edge, going with CJ Stroud when you have somebody like Gino. And maybe that's good, right? Maybe that is good. You drafted a lot of young players. Continue to let those guys develop from the 2022 class. Bringing a guy like CJ Stroud, maybe he doesn't have to play right away, which would be good. And I know we want to rush all these young guys to play right now. Houston Texans, y'all kind of got to make a guy play right now. But with Geno Smith there, he is up there in age. I don't think he's the long-term guy, but he's playing good football right now. Drafted CJ Stroud, go ahead, sit and learn. And that is a really good position to be able to be in that most teams aren't afforded.
I like it. I like the way you guys think. I know a lot of people will be like, well, you got a quarterback. Look, strength is strength, especially if you get a young guy like Stroud and you know what you can bring him into. Shane Waldron's offense has been very, very good, and I think that could be something to watch down the road. So we're good. CJ Stroud at number 3.
Being able to be drafted into an offense that has Kenneth Walker, who you turn around and hand the ball off to, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. They can probably add one other, weapon. I mean, obviously anybody can add one weapon, but, they can add one more guy that's like, okay, we really like this trio of pass catchers here, but there's a lot to work with for a young guy, as well as the defense just continuing to get better because they're developing these young players on that side of the ball. You got me there. That was a good one.
So C.J. Stroud at number 3. We're good with that. Okay, so we got Houston going Bryce Young. We got Chicago going Will Anderson. We got Seattle going with C.J. Stroud. Detroit, Philly, Carolina, they are on deck. We will get to them after we talk a little bit about our friends at BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp Therapy Online. Now, I know some of you out here probably not done therapy. You've maybe fought it for a long time. Like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I've had therapy in my family, individuals in my family. I've gone through it with my kids, and it is incredibly helpful. So don't fight the therapy aspect. So if you go, okay, I am going to go get therapy, what do I do? Well, that's where BetterHelp comes in. These therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions, learn productive coping skills, and BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists because it's convenient, secure, and accessible anywhere, 100% online. I think one of the things we learned during COVID was you don't have to be somewhere with somebody to get help, to talk with somebody, and that's what BetterHelp does. Everyone deserves to feel their best. BetterHelp makes it easier to get started. As the world's largest therapy service, they've matched millions of people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. If you go to a therapist, it doesn't go well, you can always go to somebody else. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNFL. BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNFL. It's BetterHelp, HELP, BetterHelp. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most, the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. All right, we are at number 4 in our mock 10, and it is the Detroit Lions. Man, they were handed a little bit of a gift because Jalen Carter's still sitting on the board. Ryan, Tracy, you're picking for the Lions. Do you go back to Jalen Carter? You do something different here at number 4.
There's going to be temptation, and generally I would say at this spot, hopefully you can get one of the top 2 quarterbacks. It didn't work out this way this time. We'll see what happens next time we mock this up. But for me, it's too early to stretch for the next quarterback on the list. I know that Goff is near term here, but maybe there's a Jimmy G in your future. Maybe there's somebody else in your future. I think you have to take Carter. That is the prospect that you know you're going to be able to get more from. Pair him with Aiden Hutchinson. See what you can get. Maybe you can become a defensive-powered team that can get by with the quarterback.
Aleem McNeil has cranked up his game. You put him next to Jalen Carter and Aiden Hutchinson. Woo, baby. Eric, Jalen Carter to Detroit. Agree?
I think that's the easier way to go. And Lions fans, they got on this last year. We were mocking guys like Malik Willis to them high. We were talking about, some of these other quarterbacks that didn't even end up going into the 3rd round. And they let us know that they did not like that and they did not need that. So I'm going to stick kind of with that philosophy and say, you know what, right now, the team isn't losing because of Jared Goff.
Right.
That defense is just very poor. Probably the worst defense in the NFL points-wise. So definitely going to have to go with beefing up that interior a little bit. You draft the guy, Aiden Hutchinson, continue to kind of build around him.
I like it. All right, let's go to pick number 5. This was New Orleans' pick, but it's now Philadelphia's. Just what Philadelphia needs. A top 5 pick. Now, we have mentioned the word trade a few times. I got a feeling this is a prime trade spot. Depending on how the first 4 go, not even depending, I think it's going to be a prime trade spot. I mean, Philadelphia can do what it wants. They got a great pick here at 5. But, Eric Crocker, you do have to pick at number 5 for the Philadelphia Eagles. And at this point, it feels like the world is your oyster. There's so much you can do here with the Philadelphia Eagles. Make the pick at number 5 for Philly.
I know they just drafted a big guy in the middle, Jordan Davis. What's going on with Fletcher Cox? Because it felt like it was one of those things where it's like, okay, we're going to let him go. We're going to bring him back. We're going to, but how much longer does he have in Philly? Because if he doesn't have very long, then I think being able to kind of plan for the future while you just drafted Jordan Davis and how much he's improved that run defense, especially in the interior, they're much better with him in there than without. Maybe you go with a guy like Brian Brisset. So I'm going to go with Brisset out of Clemson with the 6th pick overall.
Ryan, Tracy, your thoughts. Jordan Davis been banged up. Still have Javon Hargrave. Fletcher Cox is in his 30s. He's still probably got a little bit left. But you bolster the interior. I like it. I like the thought of former NFL, AFL defensive back, of thinking of the trenches. Ryan, Brian Brisset to Philly.
I'm not one to go against Eric Crocker when he's talking about defense, but let's say that this season ends in a Super Bowl appearance for this roster. How do you double down and come back on that? How do you reinvest and make sure you can try to go back? That's going to be the question for me. And I say make a strength stronger. You go ahead, put Quentin Johnson on this roster with AJ and Smith. Who's going to stop you? That's what I'm asking.
This is another one he might have swayed me that way again. Listen.
Wow.
I remember a couple years ago, there was a guy coming out by the name of Jamar Chase. And there was also a big left tackle coming out of Oregon.
Penei Sewell,
right?
yes.
Like, you got to go with the tackle. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals, your quarterback got hurt, he broke his knee up and, tore his ACL. You want to be able to protect him. And you're not doing that if you go and get a Jamar Chase. Well, they went and got Jamar Chase, and what do you know? The offense was dang near unstoppable. They're putting up high points, and they're just like, hey, we might not be able to protect our quarterback, but we're going to still score points because we have these weapons. So I could see a scenario where now you have three guys, right? You look at what Cincinnati did. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Cool. They definitely have two dogs. And you got A.J. Brown. You have a really good receiver in Devontae Smith, who's starting to really come on as of late. But then after that, it gets a little weird, and you just kind of have some bodies with Quez Watkins, and you go and get Jalen Reagor, and it's not the guys. They're not making that type of impact. I would say a guy like Quentin Johnston definitely makes this offense a lot more high profile, and I think it's going to be very scary. People are scared of that. Jalen Hurts, he wants to throw the ball down the field too.
Yeah. So
now having three guys that you can really stretch the field with, that would be scary.
All right, it's in. Quentin Johnston, TCU going to Philadelphia. My goodness. All right, let's get to pick number 6. Ryan, Tracy, we're back to you. It's the Carolina Panthers. This one feels easy. Is it? Make your pick at 6 for the Panthers, Ryan.
This one is tough for me. I was hoping we would have sorted this out by now, but no luck. You're just coming off of what? Multiple investments in a former number 1 in Darnold. You have Matt Corral that you wanted to bring in. You just departed with Baker Mayfield, number 1, who couldn't make, again, the mental side of it work, the leadership side of it work. Can you really afford to go after Will Levis in this spot? That's my question. I'm not sure that that's the case. So how can you help him the best after that? It's Broderick Jones, the tackle from Georgia, and just throw him on the other side. Now you got a pair of tackles. And now whoever whatever poor sap has to play quarterback for this team is going to at least have some protection. That's kind of the way I'm leaning.
Eric Crocker, going with Broderick Jones from Georgia, who I think is one of the most improved players. I wasn't in love with him last year, but watching him this year, you see a guy that can absolutely go top 10. I mean, he's got that kind of athleticism. Do you agree? Ike Ekwonu is on one side. You put Jones on the other. Now you got kind of a Seattle situation with Charles Cross and Abe Lucas. Now, Lucas was not a first-rounder, but you've got significant investment in your tackles. Do you agree? Broderick Jones, Georgia, at number 6 to Carolina.
I disagree. Carolina, they need a quarterback all the way. They need a quarterback. They've been swinging and they've been missing. And they spent draft capital on guys. They spent money on guys. And they have no answer right now. Like, who is the quarterback for Carolina right now?
Yes.
Does anybody know?
Steve Berline. No, I'm kidding.
We know it's not Baker Mayfield because they just waived him.
Yeah.
And Sam Darnold, he's on his 5th-year contract. And then you got P.J. Walker.
Right.
I think this might be the spot for Will Levis.
That's
all
too
right.
high. You got to say that's too high, don't you?
I don't love it, but there's gonna be a new coach in Carolina. You bring Will Levis in, you kind of stoke the embers there. I think I'm gonna have to go with Eric on this one. I'm gonna go Will Levis goes to Carolina, and Broderick
when
Jones
the dust
back
settles,
in the
when
pool.
the smoke settles, I think Will Levis will be a top 10 quarterback.
I don't know that I could do it, man. If I'm Scott Fitter, I would have a lot of agita about that one. I know that. But I mean, they just, to Eric's point, they don't have anybody. I mean, I can't believe in Sam Darnold. I can't buy PJ Walker. I mean, one of them could be a backup, I guess. But I don't know. Maybe Carolina investigates Jordan Love. I just can't see them making a trade for another quarterback. I don't think Dave Tepper allows them to do that. So
Jimmy Garoppolo will be a free agent.
Yeah,
and depending on what happens with the coaching situation, maybe Garoppolo ends up in that situation too. All right, let's get to pick number 7, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Eric Crocker, they're in the division. They've got Trevor Lawrence. He's starting to rise a little bit. Offensive line could use a little work. Defense, they've added some pieces, but they're not all the way there yet. They do have Trayvon Walker opposite Josh Allen. Secondary's coming around with Tyson Campbell playing very, very good football. And number 7, what do you want to do with the Jacksonville Jaguars?
I think the secondary is playing better, and I really like what Tyson Campbell is doing. He's probably one of the more underrated storylines this year because maybe Jacksonville, they're just not that good. But I'm gonna actually help Tyson Campbell out. I'm drafting another corner. It goes by the name of Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. Obviously, we know the pedigree that he possesses. It was dad being Joey Porter Sr. And I know this doesn't directly help your quarterback, on that side of the ball, but it definitely helps maybe, prevent some points. So I'm going to go with Joey Porter Jr.
Ryan Tracy, Joey Porter Jr. to Jacksonville. I'm not going to tell you I love it for one reason, but I like the fit a lot.
I love the thought process. I think you just arrived at the wrong answer because you want to help Tyson. Give him his old teammate. Put Keely Ringo in there. Ooh. Help the position, but pair him up. Give him dogs. That's what I would do. I think it's also a fit now. I think the sum equals more than the individual parts. If you put former teammates together, they can feed off of each other and grow together and become a duo. I love that concept.
Okay, you sold me. You got me with that, with the teammates thing. I'm all about it. I am wearing a dog shirt. I don't know why, but I just am. So I'm going Keely Ringo. We're going to send him to Jacksonville, unfortunately. I like him. He's kind of my comp to him. He's kind of a poor man's Stephon Gilmore. Size-wise, thick, build. I mean, Stephon Gilmore is kind of who he reminds me of when Stephon was coming out of South Carolina. All right, we got 8, 9, and 10 left. Arizona, Indianapolis, Atlanta. My God, what is Indy going to do with all the quarterbacks off the board? We'll do that next. But before we do, we got to talk Prize Picks. Daily fantasy made easy. And here's how it works at Prize Picks. You're going to pick players in a multitude of sports, whatever sports you want. You want to do disc golf? I don't know if you saw this guy over the weekend. I wish I'd remembered his name. He made a shot in disc golf that was one of the greatest shots I've ever seen. And it was great. He was like 39 over for this tournament, or 39 under for this tournament. It was incredible. Well, if you had him on Prize Picks and you said that he was going to finish better than 30 under, he was going to do better, then you could win that bet. And that's that simple. More or less. You just have to say more or less. Here's the Prize Picks projection. You go more or less. Is Ja Morant going to score 25 points against the Philadelphia 76ers? More or less, that's the number 25. I'm going more. He's going to light up the 76ers. James Harden play any defense. Now you pick 2 or 3 other players, and if they go score more or less their Prize Picks projection, and you answer it right, you can win up to 10 times your money in any entry. Any sport. Entries made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals. Currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Promo code locked on. Deposit 100, Prize Picks will give you 100. Deposit 50, Prize Picks will give you 50. Deposit 5,000, Prize Picks will give you 100. But that's still something that you can win with. Don't forget to enter promo code locked on and sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. It's Prize Picks. Gentlemen, we are at Arizona. That is pick number 8, Ryan Tracy. That is for you. Kyler Murray is signed a long-term contract. The offensive line is still shaky as always. He's got weapons. Defensively, they put a lot of assets over on that side of the ball. Don't know if it's paid off yet. The Arizona Cardinals, Ryan Tracy, what would you like to do for Steve Keim if he remains the GM and Cliff Kingsbury if he remains the head coach?
It's an interesting proposition to hear about how you support this team the most. And for Steve Keim, who's put that investment into the defensive side of the ball, I think he has to kind of steer towards the offense. I think there's some prospects here that you could really make a difference in. They've invested at tight end, Nuke, et cetera. Obviously, Hollywood might grow into that role, so I don't think either the pass catching roles are there. You could maybe look, this is really early for a running back, especially the way that I go about it. You could maybe look that direction. But I think the thing that stands out to me the most is get yourself better up front for Kyler. Bottom line. That means it's probably not an interior guy. It's got to be a tackle. I think they have room to improve their tackles. I got to be honest. So Paris Johnson Jr. looking from Ohio State all the way out to Arizona could make a lot of sense. It's going to come down, I think, to the fit and whether they can actually grow into the role long term. But that's my suggestion where I at the table.
Paris Johnson Jr. has played guard as well. So if you need him to start at guard before he goes to tackle, you could do that. Eric Crocker, you agree? Paris Johnson Jr. going to Arizona Cardinals.
No, you talked about the quarterback, and we want to continue to take some pressure off of him, but I'm going to do it in a different way. How about getting him a running back, Bijan Robinson, a guy that's a do-it-all back, and I know they have James Conner. We're going to give you a little bit more help. They've been trying to figure it out at the running back position. Conner's been solid, but he ain't Bijan Robinson. So get him a back like that can, just carry the load, do everything, pass catch, and still be a nice tandem with James Conner. Conner's still there. I think that would be a nice little setup for him, especially with the receivers that they have.
Bijan Robinson goes back home to Arizona. Man, I can't do it, Croc. I got to give them offensive line. I got to give them offensive linemen. I have to because that line is so bad. It's so bad. He's running for his life back there. I saw it in 2021. I remember going, they've got everything they need. That offensive line is just awful. So I got to give them Paris Johnson Jr., which sets up Indianapolis at number 9. Eric Crocker, it's back to you. Chris Ballard's still the GM. What are you doing? What are you drafting at number 9?
I think you just got to be a little desperate for a quarterback right here and go with Anthony Richardson. And it is going to be a work in progress. But, on a previous episode, we did talk about how you can kind of manufacture an offense around him where, you're not putting it all on his arm. You can utilize his legs, utilize his big-time athletic ability, as well as having a big arm. And we've seen teams get by like that. We watched Jalen Hurts. Is Jalen Hurts not the MVP frontrunner right now, or arguably that? Philadelphia not have the best record in the NFL. And when he was coming out, I think, most people agree with me, thought he was a running back. It's like, this guy's not going to be a quarterback. Well, he is. And it wasn't always pretty. Starting off, even in Philly, he had some up and down moments. In the last game, his rookie year, he got benched for Nate Sudfeld. So it wasn't a great situation right away. Year 2, they still had to figure out how to really get by and create this offense around him. And then year 3, you start to see him take off a little bit more and obviously be a front runner for NFL MVP. So Anthony Richardson, it will be a process, but I think it's one worth waiting for.
Right, Tracy, Anthony Richardson to Indianapolis. Your thoughts?
Listen, there's going to be a lot of hype about Anthony Richardson this run up to this draft. It's going to get crazy. Everyone listening today, remember, today on film, he is a day 2 guy at best. Do not forget that. There's no way I can take him in the top 10. So I'm on the other end of the table shouting at Eric from across the war room screaming, what can you do? You got to get somebody else. How do you make the offense better? Well, Pierce Pittman could probably use somebody else in there. I think Jordan Addison fitting into this underneath might be just exactly what they need. I'd go all in on Jordan Addison. Give him another weapon. Figure out who's throwing to him after the fact. Or maybe you've already traded by draft day and you have somebody in-house.
I split the difference on Richardson. I do not think he's a top 10 guy. I do think he's probably somewhere between 24 to 32. That's just the way I feel about it. But the Colts have got to get a young quarterback with some upside. I'm going with Eric on this one. Anthony Richardson from Florida. I don't love it at top 10, but Indianapolis needs something in that position, and they need someone at that position that is under the age of 37 that can go do something and not be Carson Wentz. And so I'm going to go with Anthony Richardson. I hate it for a number of reasons, but I'm going with it. All right, Ryan, last pick in the mock 10, the Atlanta Falcons. It's an interesting bunch. They have 3 guys on your offensive line. They're former first-rounders. They've still got Marcus Mariota. They won't turn it over to Desmond Ridder. Defensively, they can absolutely still need some help. But Arthur Smith has been doing some really good things with that roster. You bolster the roster, who knows what they can do. Ryan Tracy, what do you do with the Atlanta Falcons at 10?
That is an absolute tough one because I think guys that they would be interested, should be interested, are gone now. And this is a rough spot to sit in for a team that refuses to engage their rookie quarterback. I still don't understand it. I still want an explanation. I'll never get it, but that's okay. So what can you do? Kyle Pitts' injury is concerning, so I think weapon becomes more viable on the offensive side. I got to take a look. And since you passed me over last time, okay, let's take the big dudes. Now let's put Jordan Addison into this slot. And what does that do for not only him, but for the now rookie going to be sophomore quarterback in Desmond Ridder? I think that's an interesting weapon there as well. Let's do that.
Eric Crocker, it's your guy. USC Trojan, Jordan Addison to Atlanta to team with Drake London, who they never played with. Your thoughts?
We were definitely on the same page with this. I was thinking more Jackson Smith and Jigma, but I definitely will ride with you on Jordan Addison. I think he is an ideal fit. You look at a guy like Calvin Ridley. That was who they had at receiver, and I think Jordan Addison has that type of skill set. Pick 10 overall, guy that's slightly built. We just saw that with Devontae Smith. I think we could see it again with Jordan Addison or somewhere in this range, and a team that can definitely benefit from him. Atlanta Falcons. I like it.
I like it too, and I'm glad that we're on the same page on our final pick. The mock 10. Hopefully you've listened to the whole mock draft, but if you didn't, Houston at number 1 took Bryce Young. Chicago at 2 took Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama. Seattle took quarterback C.J. Stroud from Ohio State. Detroit took Jalen Carter from Georgia. Philly, wide receiver Quentin Johnston, TCU. Carolina did take quarterback Will Levis from Kentucky. Jacksonville, Keely Ringo, the corner from Georgia. Arizona took offensive lineman, offensive tackle, Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State. Indy, quarterback Anthony Richardson from Florida. And Atlanta took wide receiver Jordan Addison, USC. We'll continue to do our mock 10s all the way in the lead up to April's draft. And, man, a lot's going to change. But it's going to be fun to look back at this one, our first one, and see how it turns out way, way down the road. I'm sure it's going to be 100% because that's what we are right here on Locked On NFL Draft. And we thank you for being 100% with us and making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Day podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available in the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. For Ryan, for Eric, I am John. We will see you next time right here on Locked On NFL Draft. Let's go.